It's a little bit lazy for me, and especially if it's our scouts that are going back to Fraser Forster. I'm like, there's got to be somebody else out there that's as good as Fraser Forster. I mean, he wasn't the best goalkeeper in the world. I mean, there's bound to be someone somewhere that we can get that's as good as shotstopper as Fraser Forster. "38 minutes in, and I haven't mentioned Barkas. I think that's on purpose, because FC Midtjylland obviously equalised from a free kick, and Barkas has been getting the extent of the criticism for this, and I mean, rightly or wrongly so. That's what I want you to debate, Alan. I know you were looking on Twitter there. Was it a bad save from him? Was it a bad attempt from him? Did he try to do the wrong thing? So I'll let you talk us through what you think went wrong here for Barkas.
Sure. So yeah, all I did on Twitter really was, one of the great benefits of Twitter is having access to people who are experts in certain fields, and I follow a couple of goalkeeping coaches who are experts in studying goalkeeping technique, and I'll tell you what, it's complicated, and there's an awful lot to it, more than you'd think. I'm no expert in it, so I thought I'd ask an expert. So I didn't give him any context because I didn't want to prejudge it. Just said, here's the goal, tell me what you think. And his view was, yeah, it's an error. It's a technical error. I mean, essentially, what it boils down to, very simply, is that he's tried to punch the ball, and he should have, and that was the wrong decision. He should have gone up with big hands rather than a punch, which immediately shortens your arms. By the way, whereas if you go like that, you can get a greater extension. And the ball was whipped in with incredible pace, and he was unsighted, and it hit just the inside of the post and went in. You put all these factors together, I'm not excusing it, it's a mistake. He's made a mistake. And again, Celtic are in this situation that we've been in time and time again, where you're looking at the XG, you're looking at the shots, you're looking at the chances, and thinking, how the hell have we not won that game? And really, we look back ourselves and think, we've seen games like that flipped on their head, and we've won 1-0 because Fraser Forster has actually made 7 saves. And that's what people think. And that's the comparison that's made. I completely understand that. So I'm not excusing Barkas. He's made a terrible mistake. But I believe that's the first really bad mistake leading to a goal that he's made. Now, others will tell you different, because I think emotion gets in the way. He's blamed for every goal that the Rangers scored against him last season, because people, I think, emotionally are so anxious about that. They have to displace this anger onto somebody, and bloody hell, Barkas, he's right for it. But actually, if you look at the goals that he conceded, there's no way they were his fault. So it's his first really high-profile howler. But again, he's not then backed that up with any other saves, because he didn't have to make any other saves, because there weren't any other shots. So he's in this position where, I cannot argue that if you look at the data and you look at the post-shot XG of shots that he's faced, and then you look at the number of goals that he's conceded, the number of goals he's conceded is larger than the number of goals he should have let in. And he hasn't made any great saves and had any great performances in high-profile games. I can't deny any of that, but then neither has he really made any particular mistakes. So I'm kind of in this position where I'm really thrown by the personal vindictive criticism that comes his way, because I just think it's childish and pathetic to hurl that much abuse at anyone, frankly. But also, I can't actually justify that he's particularly a great goalkeeper. So I'm kind of sat in this place of trying to give the guy the benefit of the doubt where I can, while still sort of being a little bit kind of on the fence as to whether I really think he's got a future.
Yeah, it's the endless question about Barkas, and we did a full special on Barkas being and how they compare to Fraser Forster, and Fraser Forster was just a freak of nature when it came to being a goalkeeper. But James, I will put this to you, because I know the numbers say that Barkas is not making more mistakes than he should do. But should a Celtic goalkeeper not be outperforming his XG?
I think this is a terrific intellectual discussion, because it introduces so much of how analytics are going to change and have been changing football and the fan experience within that context. So people are going to be biased in a variety of ways. It's just inherent for people. And one thing I'm seeing over and over again, the people that are just absolutely going, Tonto, is, as Alan has said about Barkas, is they default back to, Forster, who, clearly has been an excellent shot stopper when he's played at Celtic outside of, I guess, that first season. And that's an anchor. That's a cognitive anchor and bias. That's what a keeper is. I mean, you see that. You see people say, well, that's their job. They got to stop shots. Well, that's part of their job. And a bigger question that has to be considered, I think, is what is the role and the job within Ange's system? How do you value the different components of that job relative to net results? Right. So how do you value what somebody like Barkas, and again, I don't have any great metrics on his build-up play, or this is all conceptual. I'm not saying this from a hard analytics perspective, like I have an answer to this. I'm just posing the question, and the conceptual framework, which is there's going to be value in Celtic's keeper playing that high line, playing a quote unquote sweeper keeper, their ability to be athletic and move around the pitch and distribute the ball relative to our attack, and enabling our defenders and midfielders to play the roles that they're supposed to positionally within a system, right? So this comes back to the robustness of the system. There's going to be significant value in a keeper filling that role well athletically, that is above and beyond shot stopping. So the idea that you could plug a Fraser Forster into Ange's system and you're going to get a net positive relative to what Barkas is going to deliver, I think is highly questionable analytically, because is he going to be 40 yards from goal or approaching the midfield circle and being a ball playing keeper and create a system dynamic where the center backs and the inverted fullbacks and the midfielders are able to do their jobs and reliably so in that capacity. So I think it's a far more complicated question than, Barkas is a crap shot stopper, therefore, put Fraser Forster in. I think, or sign Fraser Forster. Unfortunately, I think that might be the mentality of some very senior people at Celtic, from what I've heard. But I think I would be shocked if Ange Postecoglou would look at somebody like Fraser Forster and said, that's the answer to my problem. I'm not saying Barkas is the answer either. What I'm saying is I don't see how it theoretically could even be Forster.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because, and again, apologies to the guy who doesn't like me using Premier League references, but I mean, this is what I'm dragging from. I remember when Pep Guardiola first came to Man City, one of his first things was get Joe Hart out of goals, and he brought in Claudio Bravo, who, he was a disaster altogether. But the idea was that, even though Joe Hart had a proven record as being a top quality goalkeeper, shot stopper, he couldn't play football. He could not play the system that Pep wanted to do. And Claudio Bravo, even though he was a worse goalkeeper, shot stopping wise, goalkeeping wise, basic goalkeeping needs, he was much better on the ball than Joe Hart was. So is Barkas good enough on the ball, though, from what you've seen, James?
Alan, you go ahead. You're going to have a better sense of that than me.
Well, no, just in fact, that was what was frustrating me last night. I mean, by half time, he'd completed 18 passes, Barkas, for 24 if you include free kicks where he was just rolling it to the centre half. 18 open play passes, and he'd given it away 9 times. His passing with his feet last night in the first half wasn't actually very good. So again, I'm not like James, I'm not defending Barkas by saying he's the answer. I absolutely reject the fierce and personal criticism, some of the fierce and personal criticism on a matter of principle. But I'm happy to debate the technicalities of the goalkeeping within the framework that James described. That's a grown-up conversation, and I don't know. I'm not convinced that he is the answer. But the actual answer is that Postecoglou needs to tell the scouts the attributes of the goalkeeper that he wants, and they need to find someone that fits it. And I suspect, if I would very much doubt, as James said, that the answer is Fraser Forster. And I keep going back to this point. When Fraser Forster was back on Celtic's radar at the beginning of the season before, before last. He was third choice at Southampton. Now, there's enormous inefficiencies in the football market anyway. You're telling me across professional football clubs in Europe, who generally will hold 3 goalkeepers at first team level, there isn't somewhere a completely unutilized, underrepresented, underappreciated goalkeeper who would broadly fit the profile that Postecoglou needs? I'm pretty sure there will be, and a decent price point. That's why signing Barkas for 5 million. I didn't agree with that. I'm sure you could have got somebody that would fitted the profile, whatever the profile was when Lennon wanted a goalkeeper, for a lot less than 5 million. Even if it was another season loan, because the thing with goalkeepers is no one's going to recall them. You're going to get them for the season, so you've got a little bit of continuity there. So they just need to, if Barkas isn't the right answer, we need to get the right answer and be a little bit creative about where we find it, because I'm sure there's value out there.
The fact that Fraser Forster keeps popping up as somebody who is potentially coming in. I mean, I don't know what age he is, but he must be late 30s at this point.
33. I think he'll be 34 this coming season.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a little bit lazy for me, and especially if it's our scouts that are going back to Fraser Forster. I'm like, there's got to be somebody else out there that's as good as Fraser Forster. I mean, he wasn't the best goalkeeper in the world. I mean, there's bound to be someone somewhere that we can get that's as good as shot-stopper as Fraser Forster and better with his feet. I mean, all it takes is a little bit of scouting. Surely they're capable of doing that.
And this comes back to the concern for this window, as the club seems to be entering into, some have called it a rebuild. I think the squad is being rebuilt. I think that a lot of what's going on at the club is being built, meaning that a lot of it wasn't there, or it's in such a condition that it's almost like starting from scratch. There's been enough reporting from different sources. I think, and it's speculating because obviously I'm not an inside guy and I don't know, but it seems like they're still working off of scouting and recruitment lists and information that existed before Postecoglou.
Oh no, they absolutely are, and I can confirm that because Postecoglou said as much when he was asked about Liam Shaw rather, and about Urgida. He said that he got in, the scouts had him in a list, and that's what he's working off at the minute.
And those are the obvious ones. I think Starfelt's one that probably is off a list because, again, I like him. We talked about him on a prior show, but I don't see how he pairs with Julian in a coherent fashion relative to Postecoglou. So he's probably off the list. I mean, the only one that we pretty much know is Furuhashi. That's an Ange pick. Outside of that, completely, given the context of all the other activity that's been going on, someone who I don't know. I mean, we don't have a director of football. We don't have a head scout. We don't have a head of recruitment. So someone who's not Ange is saying, hey, let's go back to Forster and check, as if that's a good idea. I mean, it might be the same person that thought Duffy was a good idea. Who knows? Or the same people. So that's my biggest concern still, is that where's the coherent kind of facilitation of getting players out of the transfer market that makes sense into Ange's system and doing it in a timely way, which is pretty much done now. That's not going to happen. So now let's worry about fit. And Forster is not a fit. I think Alan and I would agree on that. I mean, it's just so far down the road from that. I mean, the idea that he's going to be coached up to a ball playing keeper at this age. I mean,
yeah.
I
just don't think. Yeah, I don't think he's a match at all. And I think it's just pure laziness to keep going back to the guy who was good for us in 2012, which was 8 years ago. So, I mean, we got to move on at some point. We got to find someone else at some point.